Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ascend the Matrix, the podcast. I am one of your hosts today, Brittany Renée, a psychic intuitive embodiment coach, here to remind you who you are at soul level, alongside the amazing Chrys King, our other incredible host. Chrys, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. It's Chrys King. I'm so excited to be here with you all today and discuss this topic that we're discussing today. But I am a medicine alchemist, a shamanic healer, ascended astrologer, ascension and awakening guide. I'm here to also help people tap out of the false matrix into their highest, most divine self. All the good shit,
All the good shit.
all the good shit that we've come here on this planet to do in this lifetime and during this ascension process. And today's topic is very unique and interesting as it's going to take us on a little ride to Hollywood and everything that's going on there. But I'm just going to set the intention, and Brittany, I'm going to ask you to kind of open the space for us.
Course.
I'm setting the intention now that in this conversation, anything that is said is taken and received as a possibility, not a fact. Some of these things I do know to be real from firsthand experiences or through my own intuitive insights and shamanic journeys, and I've had my own experience of some of these things. Some of the some of the things that may be talked about will be things that we've heard from other people, from people that we know, from people's podcasts, from documentaries that we've seen. Okay, I have been in the world and inundated with all of the things that are going on with Hollywood, and I'm very familiar with what's happening with the mind control programs and the Hollywood elite and the program that they're using to run there to run the mind control programs. I'm very familiar with that idea. So, and I've also been exposed to it in the media and into the world of, satanic ritual abuse survivors and people who have actually been involved in these agencies as children, people who were ex-military officers. I've come across a lot of data, so I am pretty biased, is my point here. And so I just want to make sure we're setting the intention that we're holding all of this as possibility because we want to help humanity ascend. We want to help children and end the suffering there. And we want to end mind control because that is the absolute most atrocious assault against our sovereignty and our freedom as divine creator beings that could possibly happen is to mess with our minds and to control it without our knowledge. So, Brittany, let's open the space a little bit energetically.
Yeah, let's do that. All right. For those of you who are with us, either wherever you are in the world, we're just going to drop in together into our bodies. If you can just take a big breath in and let it go. We're going to ask for sovereignty to reign throughout our being, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual realms. We just denounce any and all interference and backlash through all time, space, dimension, parallel, and iteration. We're going to ask to rise to the highest available frequency and timeline, calling all of our power, energy, and essence back home, clean, cleared, and purified. We're going to denounce anything trying to interfere, any implants, any programs, belief systems, or thought forms which are no longer resonant. We ask to just be swept away and to open up our minds, our hearts, and just allow us to step into curiosity today with the topics that we're going to bring through. Denouncing any and all manipulation, anything veiled as light. We just bring in sovereignty, softness, and protection at a cellular and DNA level, protecting our conscious, unconscious, subconscious, superconscious mind and rising us up into the 144th dimension. We're going to place 167,000 layers of mirrored alchemical coded protection as we call in our guides, ancestors, and angels to assist us today. We just say this wheel and container is set and sealed for the highest and greatest good. So it is. Aho.
And so it is. Aho. Period. Okay.
Period.
So, as while you were doing that, the singer Prince stepped
I saw
forward.
him.
Yeah. So, for those of you listening, one of my most absolute favorite singers, I'm like, which side is it? Right here. If you're watching the video, you'll see his symbol in the background here. Prince is a very powerful force in the music world and Hollywood, as you know, but he's also a very powerful force in the upper realms as an ascended master like figure and working with races of beings and helping us with our ascension process. And that's what he's come here to do as a divine starseed being. And when he stepped forward, I was like, yes, let's invite you to step forward as well. If there's anything that Prince needs to say, whether it's channeled through us or it slips out of our mouth or not, I'm inviting that to come through because he had a very different perspective on all of these things. And he was also taken out by the Hollywood program, by Warner Brothers, allegedly.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to make sure that, and I got that from him in spirit. I didn't get that from some podcast. But the reason I bring him up is not everyone that we're going to talk about today is part of this program willingly. Okay. That's the reason that Prince had slave written on his face. Yes, it had to do with record companies and royalties and profits and just artistic license
Mm-hmm.
and ownership. All of that definitely played a role in Prince's journey from extreme stardom to eccentricity and the weird guy in the music industry to becoming a full-on legend by the time he died. And they wanted that to happen. I believe he was taken out because it was going to make them so much money and it was going to turn him into an even bigger star than he already was, because it's just it's how we operate as humans. Is we don't really put things on a pedestal until they die. We don't miss things until they're gone. And so the program, the matrix, the false matrix, the Illuminati, the powers that be, whatever you want to call it, the reptilians, they understand the way our mind works, the way our trauma works, what gets us going, what makes us ashamed. And so they use all of that against us. And as Prince steps forward, I'm also setting the intention that anything we've talked anything we talk about comes through with love, and that we understand that this is not, we're not trying to bash anyone, but we are trying to give a very unique perspective to this because even Prince was rumored at one time to have hosted a Diddy party, and he hosted it at Paisley Park, I believe, in Minnesota, and he only hosted it one time. He did not attend, and he never hosted one ever again. And that was like 18, 20 years ago, something like that. So he saw some things, and we know that he saw some things because he went back to Jehovah's Witness in his later years, because that's where you go when you were raised Jehovah's Witness and you've seen, from his perspective, you've seen that the devil is real and it is alive and well. And so you run back to your roots, or you go back to your safety and comfort. And he was a very spiritual being, but you don't usually find that in the realm of these singers.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of them that we've encountered over the past 50 years, a lot of actors, singers, celebrities in Hollywood who were people just like us. Then there's many of them that are not people like us. And that is my opinion, whether they're shape-shifting reptilians or they're clones that have been made from celebrities, which we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
There are some weird things happening. Something bad is happening in Oz. Okay. Something bad is happening in Oz. And it is important that we talk about this because what I'm finding, Brittany, is I am one of the number one, um, I am one of the reasons Hollywood thrives as much as it does. That was my name as a child, was Hollywood. That's what my parents
Mm-hmm.
branded me as because I was an actor.
Right.
So I was always destined to come to Hollywood, and I put people on pedestals, whether it was Destiny's Child as a kid, you know, Prince for sure. Prince was one of my biggest obsessions. It was the most different and unique out of all of the obsessions I had,
Mm-hmm.
out of all of the fixations. I loved Cher when I was really, really little. I loved Cher, was obsessed with her, had t-shirts and all these things. And I never really thought about it until the past 5 years, how unhealthy some of that may have been, or how some of it didn't even feel like in my control. And this really came up for me in the past 6 months as
Mm-hmm.
the lead up to the movie Wicked began. And I started to hear the songs in my head and started to become obsessed with it and couldn't stop looking up certain videos. And yes, that musical's important to me, but I didn't understand what the immense fixation on it was. And then a lot of things have been uncovered. and some light bulbs have gone off for me around what that is and the mechanism that's causing some of that. And it's quite insidious. And it feels like to me, once the curtain is lifted, I can't not see the man behind the curtain. And
Right.
now that I know that there is mind control happening and that so much, 90% of the music and the movies that I've loved were made off of the backs of abuse or were made through abuse specifically, we've got to talk about this because
Mhm.
not, and it's not just Hollywood, but other agencies in the world are specifically designed to implant narratives, programs, create distorted frequencies. I mean, I started to realize that I felt better in the past few years when I wasn't listening to pop, hip hop music, the kind of
Yes.
music that I loved for most of my life.
Hmm.
And I started to realize that my nervous system was more regulated. And so there are many factors that have led me to this conversation. And the biggest one would be that I was a fan of Prince and definitely felt a difference there, definitely felt spiritually nourished by his music
Yes.
in a way that I had not been by others. But the other one was Rihanna. So I have Rihanna tattooed several times on my body, like Prince. I've got her face on my arm here to represent the Gemini twins. There's two of her face, and I chose her face because she was my favorite current modern artist, but also I just didn't want a Anglo-Saxon Caucasian model face for this bionic woman here. I wanted a more multicultural face, and I was like, let me just pick Rihanna. But I've also got Braille on my body, which is a signification or was really inspired by Rihanna's Anti album, which came out in 2016. So I'm prefacing all of this to say there's been some twists and turns in this road, and there's been some spots or some, how do I put it, fork at the end of the road that I've come to where I've had to make some decisions on what kind of music I listen to, what kind of media I intake, what kind of movies I purchase and participate in because of what is actually happening out here. And I do want to go into that, but is there anything you want to say?
Mm. I've been letting you go because I'm like, you're on a roll. Yeah, it's one of the things that we've talked about a lot. And for those of you listening, Chrys and I both are very much theatrical beings. Anyone who's known me or is in my circle knows that I was the pageant girl, the musical kid, show choir, all the things. Like my high school literally was what Glee was based off of. So that tells you anything. And, Prince on the other side, I grew up hearing Prince from, I don't even like as long as I can remember. My mom has been obsessed. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, you have this weird obsession with this person. And then as I got older, I was like, I really vibe to this music. I like him. And now, he actually came in this morning. I had a call with my community and his energy was like front and center.
Oh, I love it.
Well, hello. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Um, so I vibe with all of this, and I think that this is such an important topic. And the interesting thing, I think, where we differ, and that's why I'm excited to kind of get into this a little deeper today, is I didn't really have, and I should say, like, haven't really had much of the like obsession like a lot of people did, which interestingly enough, I think is why when I was a makeup artist before I started being intuitive professionally, why I went as far as I did, because I just wasn't, there wasn't like shock and awe. It was just like, oh yeah, this is just a part of it. And I think there was this part of me that forever has kind of felt like it's all fake. Like it's all the Wizard of Oz, right? They're all just, there's a man behind the curtain somewhere, and these are just the puppets that are chosen to play the parts. Um, but that being said, I will say, like Wicked, when we get into that space, we've talked about this so many times. There's so much, I think, in Hollywood that people don't realize. Like, there are offices in Hollywood specifically to talk about how to pull that collective energy in and how to really, like, just sink their nails in and pull all of that energetic, which is very siphoning, which we could go into. But yeah,
Yes.
where do we want to start? Which road do we want to take on this? Because I know wind all sorts of places.
Yeah, we're definitely on a yellow brick road right now.
Yellow brick
And,
roads.
when we bring up Hollywood and things like that, we have to bring up The Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
Wicked is going to come up because it's the latest rendition of this Wizard of Oz story. And The Wizard of Oz was not only written by a theosophist who was a Satanist, L. Frank Baum, but the movie was specifically designed as a mind control activator. So for those of you listening, please look up people like Bryce Taylor, um, people who were survivors of satanic ritual abuse, and MK Ultra mind control. So I've been watching the show Stranger Things just to revisit it because it's been a while, and I'm
Yep.
seeing all of these references to mind control in it and MK Ultra and them actually talking about it, which is called suggestive programming. When Hollywood will put things into the movies that are flat out blatant and in your face, and so apparently or obviously right in front of you that it feels like, well, it's not a secret anymore. We told you. You know what I mean? And The Wizard of Oz has a lot of programs in it. There's a lot of mind control, hypnotic programs around going over the rainbow, going down the yellow brick road. The opium in the poppies represents
Mhm.
the drugs that are often given to children, but of people of all kinds in these satanic ritual cults or in
Mhm.
these mind control programs because they use electroshock, light therapy, hypnosis. They use Disney movies. Disney is one of the largest of these programs. So please look up, I can't remember the other woman's name, but Bryce Taylor. And
Mm.
the other woman has a whole documentary that I just watched, which was really, really good. And I also saw her on Roseanne. I can't, on the Roseanne podcast. I can't remember her name. Um, Give me just a second because I think it's important that people do their own research on this. Um,
You know something interesting too while you're looking that up,
yeah,
that something that really did shock me, I would say the first time that I was like, ooh, this kind of rocked me a little bit was when I started doing energetic field work and started seeing like through the veil, seeing fields and moving through time-space dimension and what that looked like. The first time I went to go see the Doctor Strange movie in theaters, I got super tripped out because I was like, this is so close to what I see when I open portals, when I work
yeah,
in the fields. And it really like had me in this moment that I was like, is this real life? Like, is this really happening?
yeah,
And I'm like, there are, I think personally, here's, an opinion, do your own research. There are very connected, even intuitive people who are working with Hollywood to bring things that we see, we hear, we connect. And it's like the weaving of the web that happens is so vast at this point
yeah,
that it doesn't matter if you're in the psychic intuitive world, if you're a doctor, like wherever you fall, there is someone, it's like they have a seat at the table in Hollywood to be like, well, let's
yes,
use this, let's do that, let's do this. And it's grabbing from all angles.
yeah,
I think the more we're conscious of this, the more we can be in our discernment and in our like power, I guess, more in our sovereignty.
yeah.
Yeah, that
Well,
one.
I think that her name is Kathy Bryan or Kathy O'Brien. Kathy O'Brien.
Kathy O'Brien.
By the way, yes, Kathy O'Brien, Cathy, Kathy O'Brien, Brien, and you'll find a lot about her. But yeah, I don't believe that the powers that be, the reptilians, the Illuminati, I don't think that they have a seat at the table in Hollywood. I think that they are the table. I think that they are the main force behind the whole mechanism because yes, talking pictures and music, all of that seems innocent enough, right?
Right.
It's all just it's all just there, but it's what we consume. It's the type of brainwave frequency that we go into when we listen to these types of music and watch these movies. We're very suggestible
Right.
when we're in these states. And this is was hard for me to wrap my head around because of how into acting in Hollywood I was for most of my life, and especially being a fan of Rihanna And I was a huge fan of Rihanna, okay? Like every album I had on CD, I had, t-shirts. I mean, it kind of looking back, I have a very obsessive personality around certain things, and she was definitely one of them, and I just thought she could do no wrong. And all of the Illuminati rumors I would hear, and all of the things, I would shut it down. There were many times people would talk about the Illuminati, and I would shut it down specifically because once Beyonce and Rihanna got brought up, I was out. We're not going
Mm,
here. You're not going to touch them, you know? And
yeah.
I'm so far removed from all of that that I'm able to see it from an unbiased perspective. But I was super in the matrix when it comes to um, media and art,
Mhm.
production of mind control like that. And it was really hard for me to wrap my mind around it because I have I have her tattooed on my body. So this just goes to show the level of like the new age spiritual religion that is happening right now also has to do with this new pantheon of gods that we have, which are politicians and talk show hosts and
Mhm.
actors and musicians. We put them on a pedestal, and I remember listening to Lady Gaga's album The Fame and the Fame Monster
Yeah.
years and years ago, and the Fame Monster is so far up inside of her
Mhm.
that I don't even know that what we're seeing right now is the original her. Like, she is as far gone as you can get. Um, but her album, The Fame Monster, it all talks about fame and the dark side of fame. I mean, even one of her um, performances on the VMAs is her talking about wanting fame and, paparazzi and all of that. And then she's bleeding and wiping the blood all over her face. Back then, it was so artsy. It was so cool. I was 18. You know, it
Right.
was just so out there. It's like the new Madonna, but also Madonna's a part of all of this as well.
Mhm.
We've got these beings that are put on pedestals that we can't stop thinking about. We can't stop obsessing about their music. We can't stop purchasing the item. We feel like we know them when you don't know them at all.
Well,
Uh,
they also create this, like Rihanna, they create this entire portal for you to go play in, right? Like
yes.
her albums, you were sharing some things with me that I didn't even know about the boxes that got placed around. I'm like, we were seeing it too, real time with Taylor Swift. Like Taylor
Oh,
Swift
she's
fans,
another one.
woo! But Taylor Swift has so many intricacies in like what numbers are where, what the
That's
words
right.
are in certain songs, all of that, right? So I'm like, each artist almost has their own little vortice that you can just
Yes.
jump into and go on a journey with them. And then you feel connected to like almost false purpose,
Yeah.
at the end of the day when you step back.
Yeah.
So it's very easy, I think, to connect in and do that.
Well, and that's the design of it all. So you were talking about,
Mm.
excuse me, you were talking about Rihanna's the black cubes. So I'll give everyone some context here. So Rihanna has from the very beginning been labeled the Illuminati. Um, hmm, let's see what we can. Are you seeing the black cube right here?
Nope, well, not now.
Okay, hold on.
I was, though. We were on it.
What about now?
Hmm.
Okay, let's see if we can. In some of the, yeah. So here's a music video for S&M, Princess of the Illuminati. Now,
Mm.
what I used to say to people is, no, she's putting that in there to make fun of you all because you're being ridiculous. That's how they get you. Okay.
Mhm.
So before we go any further, I am saying right now on the record, and this is all my perspective and my opinion, but I do believe that Rihanna is one of the main faces for the Illuminati satanic cult. She has been since she was 15 years old when she was chosen. And
Mm.
it really happened for her. after she beat the shit out of her own face because she gave Chris Brown, who's so talented, um, an STD. And so to cover up all of that, they created this whole story that he has to go along with. And again, who is Chris to say any of this? Right? So go
Mhm.
do your own research about this because this was my girl back in the day before I realized that she's not a girl at all. And I want you to pay attention to, and this is, I'm using her as an example because of how obsessed I was, because there's many people out there who wouldn't even look at their obsession with the celebrity as unhealthy. Look at all the people with Elvis everywhere. You know, Chris has Prince's symbol and his tambourine back here. I don't idolize Prince as a celebrity. I put him in a special place in my heart because of my experience with him in my life, but also in my spiritual work.
Yeah.
So he's very much like an ascended master, but even then, you have spiritual people everywhere putting ascended masters, angels, guides of all kinds, Arcturians on a pedestal, on a
Hmm.
candle as a saint that you're going to come save me from something and you're more powerful than me. And we're doing that with the celebrities as well. And this is taking your sovereignty away. You're giving your money to a saturnic program. When I say satanic, I mean Saturn.
Saturn.
Okay. So you'll also notice that she had an album called Music of the Sun, and then she had another album called A Girl Like Me, and then she had
Hmm.
an album called Good Girl Gone Bad, okay, which is the album with Umbrella on it.
Yeah.
And this was the album where Jay-Z really stepped in and became a force in her own music as well to make sure that her rise to fame and recognition happened. But, you know, even putting things like this in the music videos makes you question yourself. It's a gaslighting technique. And if you look at Rihanna discography, so here's her first album, No Eyes Are Covered. Okay. I wish we had beautiful. So here's our first one. She's 16 years old, 15, 16. And then there's her second one, and you'll notice an eye is covered, and then an eye is covered completely. To open here. Now we've got complete covered here. And then the next one completely covered, very dark. This is after the getting beat up by Chris Brown fiasco in 2009.
Hmm.
Eyes closed and covered. Now we've got an eye covered. It has to be. We've got to have something over the eye. Now we've got some tongue action going on here. Okay. And then we've got another eye covered here. And then we get to the last album in 2016, both eyes covered.
Hmm.
Okay. And this was done on purpose. And this was done by an artist who already made art like this that she chose. Now, I want you to pay attention to the Illuminati and Satanism because I love, color red. I love gold. My name means
Hmm.
gold. Okay. Gold is very important to me in the work that I do, not as a material object, but as a frequency. But the Illuminati and the satanic cults, they love gold, black and white. You'll usually find black and white Saturn. All you got to do is uh,
We're giving you the how to Google and all of this and go down your own rabbit hole.
yes, but you'll usually find this checkered floor in all
Hmm.
of this satanic Illuminati symbolism, Freemasonry. Oh, there it is, the checkered floor of the Freemasons. There's the symbol of Saturn right there. Okay. And here's the Saturn cube, and we'll get into that. The synagogue of Satan. I love that. And it actually is. So, for those listening, before we lose you, because we're using the word Satan and things like that, this is not a Christian podcast. We are talking about Saturn. The archetype of Satan is the uh, energy or the planet of Saturn, and they love black and white.
Hmm.
They also love red. The Satanists love using red, which is why the cardinals in the Vatican wear red in their red shoes, which it's a whole other conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll notice all of that is represented here. And if you look closely on the front, there's braille. Okay, there's also braille all over her crown as well. And so the idea of it is that things are hidden in plain sight. That's the idea of using the braille. Okay. So we're already onto something here because what the Illuminati needs, what the reptilian agenda, what they need from the host, whether it's an original version of them or it's a clone of them. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because when I was going deep into this a few months ago, Spirit came to me and said, she is a clone. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't hear that from someone. Okay, I didn't even know that celebrity cloning was as big as it is. I never really got into it until the past couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
It's too out there. It's too weird. It's also too scary. What if I have a clone? What if you have a clone? What if, what if Ariana Grande recorded an album but her clone filmed the movie Wicked? And
Mm-hmm.
that's why they both came out at once. Do you see, like, do you understand the twilight zone that that would send many people into, but even someone like myself who feels really embodied and feels like I understand what's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Although I believe what Spirit told me, and I also used my pendulum and asked again several times before I accepted this as a fact about you know the princess of R&B or one of the princesses of pop. I really had to sit with myself and do this inner work around it, if you will, because I have the bitch tattooed all over my body, or things that are inspired by this album. My little brother and I both have matching tattoos of Rihanna lyrics in Braille in other parts of our body as an homage to this album because so many of my friends loved her. She brought so many of us together, this music. So I'm not saying that it can't be alchemized, it can't be enjoyed. I'm just wanting people to see through the things because while there's music being made, and even if it's good music, you feel it's done well, you love it, there's a reason. The music is just the products on the shelf. It's like a front business,
Mm-hmm.
it's a front. And so, what you have to do to get into the ranks of the Illuminati and the satanic cults is you have to prove yourself and you have to blackmail yourself. All those Diddy videos that people are talking about of Justin Bieber and Rihanna and Mary J. Blige and Beyonce and Jay-Z, all of these videos that are available that much of the government has now watched and most of the celebrities are very aware of and have people behind the scenes taking care of all of that so that they can walk around and act like nothing's happening still
Right.
because it's about to take down the entire institution. The
Yep.
reason those videos were made, you can say, why did he film all of those things? It's for blackmail.
Yep.
They have to blackmail you so that they know you won't tell and they know that you will be loyal to them. It's the Illuminati works on reptilian agenda or reptilian ideology, which is very hierarchical, which is very divide and conquer because they're possessed by archontic energies. So before we go any further, there's been many aspects or many examples of Rihanna doing this. And again, I don't want to be one of those people that's like, oh, look, she's an all black. She has, look at her little doo doo balls. That's what we call them back in Louisville, where I'm from. They're called doo doo balls. Okay. Those are her Satan horns. Look at her black lipstick. She's Satan. Okay. Hold up. You can wear black lipstick and not be Satan, but there are going to be things that I say going forward that I just want you to pay attention to
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to this album specifically. And the reason that I bring up this album is because not only was it important to me, it was her last album and it was number 8. 8 is the number of Saturn. I believe with each album, she was making her way toward the top. Right after this album, she became a billionaire and decided not to make music anymore because contract it was complete, honey.
Yes.
Okay? She cemented herself and made sure that she was more powerful than the man who convinced her to do all of this when she was 15 years old. When she was flown across the state or the United States border. Let me try that again. Flown across the United States border at 15 years old, meets with a very adult Jay Z,
Hmm.
and some music executives, and she's told that she's not allowed to leave unless she signs this contract, or they're going to throw her out the 29th floor window. Okay. And that becomes a Hollywood joke. That's how much they loved Rihanna's, that they were going to throw her out a window unless she signed her contract. They were for real about that. Okay. And so from that point forward, she started, the grooming process began. Now, I don't know when the cloning happened. Okay. But Spirit told me she is a clone, and the original Robin Rihanna Fenty that was born in Barbados is still alive. I didn't ask any more questions after that because I didn't want to know.
It gets really intense, I think, when you lean into that. I started looking into the entire cloning process in 2020 because something came into my purview and I went down that rabbit hole. And the one that got me where I was like, ooh, yeah, okay. There was a few, but Britney Spears, and I mean, she
Oh,
had people were all up on her space too, saying like, she doesn't look the same, she's acting funny, this isn't like who we know. Like, people were actually feeling the different of the energetic with her.
yes, yes.
And they started like facial recognition things they were showing like between her and now who she
That's right.
is. And like
That's right.
nothing was correct. Even the other one that got me, I was like, Joe Biden.
Oh, yeah.
You look at Joe Biden, who was with Obama, and Joe Biden, who we just had as president. I mean, nothing matches up. And again, you guys go do your own research on this. I know this sounds very like woo woo crazy. I also was
It
like,
does.
way. But then the more I sat and looked through it, I'm like, once you see things, you can't unsee them.
You
And
can't. You can't. And you also have to understand we've had this technology for a long time. The reptilians, the Zeta Reticuli, the who work for the reptilians, they are master geneticists.
Mhm,
They have immense technology. Their spiritual life sucks.
mhm,
Their mental world is very advanced. Their heart is shut down. And they are very much about manipulating DNA for certain purposes because they can actually create hybrid biological beings with artificially intelligent consciousness in them. That's what these Zeta Reticulan grays, many of them, are just a hive mind Borg creature in a
yeah,
biological gray small body, but their mind is hooked up to a computer the way they want to do with the chips in our brain, okay?
yeah.
And which is what they're also doing. Ooh, which is what they're also which is what they're also doing. Yeah, can you see me? Can
I,
everyone see me? I'm which is what they're also doing,
mhm,
okay? And when they when we get things inside of us from a building and there's a band-aid.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Yay for YouTube.
Yay.
Yay for the powers that be. So I'm just going to start speaking in code from now on, okay? I'm going to start using Braille and Morse code, and we won't get censored on YouTube. Okay. So when they do the thing they do to us and they tell us we should go do that, there are things in there as well that
Mhm,
um, could also be a part of implanting some type of mind
mhm.
control mechanism or to bring your frequency to a certain level where you only vibrate with that programming and that frequency range. This has to do with the music as well. All of this
Yeah,
music, hip hop music, R&B music, pop music, so much of the music out there is specifically designed at certain hertz frequencies, and the percussion involved in the instruments used to dysregulate your nervous system because a dysregulated population is more easily controlled. You can think, wow, they're really putting a lot of thought into that. Why would they put so much thought into it? Look how much thought they put into, building an online business and
right.
marketing it to you just to get you to buy it constantly.
Mhm.
You don't think that the master geneticists, who the reptilians, the satanic cult, the beings that run the entire planet, you don't think that they have time to plan these things out? These things are planned out for so many years in advance. 9/11 was planned out for 30 or 40 years. The Twin Towers went up specifically so they would come down. It was the entire process. Saturn was in Gemini when they went up.
Yes.
Saturn was in Gemini when they went down on their Saturn return.
Hmm.
Saturn is the key here because Saturn is Satan. In astrology, we say that Saturn is the Lord of Karma, the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
He's the Lord of boundary and restriction and physical reality, holding things in form. Okay? The Matrix. Even astrology will tell you that. So when we look to the planet Saturn, it's important because that has a lot to do with Rihanna's ascent into Illuminati gloryhood. And when we look at Saturn, we often hear about the black cube. So,
I was just gonna say, give everyone who's listening some words to start to look into or where to look for more of this,
yeah.
because I can already feel people are gonna be like, "What? What do you mean? How do I, let's lead
Well,
them to the entryway."
absolutely. And we have to lead them here and just know there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Right.
This video, if you're watching it, it's probably going to be a miracle that you're even watching it because I did something with my arm and my hand earlier, motioning and mentioning something that I'm not supposed to mention.
Hmm.
Okay. So I used the V word on a podcast last week, and her podcast was taken down twice, and she had to remove that entire section about it. Okay. Um, so when you get into all of this, there is a lot of misinformation, even on DuckDuckGo. Like you have to just be
Yeah.
mindful that there's a lot of things that have been put out there specifically to um, dissuade you or make you question yourself. There are websites that talk about the black Saturn cube, and in the article, throughout the whole article, it'll say, and isn't it crazy that people actually believe in stuff like this? So that while you're reading it, you're like, oh, I thought this was going to tell me about the black cube of Saturn, but it's actually telling me that this is just a big made up thing and it's a conspiracy theory and people have too much time on their hands. I don't want to be someone who is devoting and wasting my time on conspiracy theories that aren't real. Let me go back to work.
Yeah.
All right. So I want you all to hear the mechanism at work and how it can prey on us. Now,
Mhm.
the on the top of Saturn is this incredible storm at its north pole, but a storm should be a circle. It should be completely circular. However, Saturn's storm is not. It is actually a perfect hexagon, meaning it has six sides. And six is the number, not of Saturn. We consider his number to be eight. Excuse me. But the frequency of the cube is six. And the reason we call it a cube is because it's actually flattened. It's a flattened cube. And so we call it the black cube of Saturn. They've been calling it that for thousands of years. And let's see, Saturn cube. The cube has been used in religious iconography and programming for thousands and thousands of years because even I guess you could say the quantum physics or the physics behind a black cube is that it absorbs 98% of light.
Mm.
So this black cube program, this Saturnian program, is meant to absorb the light that we are emitting, which is what's keeping everything in a low frequency range constantly. It's like being in 900 FM to 91 FM, and then deciding through your own spiritual process that you're going to go to 92 FM and then 93. You can't do that right now because there's frequency ranges which are so heavy and so heavily guarded using the six code 666. That's what that cube, it could be turned into a Star of David. And the Star of David has six triangles, six sides, and six points. That's where the 666 comes from, okay? And just so everyone's aware, the Saturn symbol is also involved in many different religious iconography. I don't know what other word to use, but the cross, even, okay? The cross itself is an unfolded cube. So we're starting to understand here how they're putting geometry into our face because our body recognizes geometry. Your cells, your DNA, your very being, the water in your body recognizes certain shapes, sounds, because you are your environment and you take in the stimuli around you. And so they're using that against us for thousands of years. And so back in 2015, in late 2015, Rihanna started her anti campaign, which means, this album is finally coming out. And she put these black cubes all over the planet in different locations, which is another aspect that I didn't even realize until I just said it. Putting these different cubes in different locations almost kind of puts a stake in the ground there and says, this is our location. They've done it at Mount Shasta, at Stonehenge in Hawaii. They, even up in Mount Shasta, there's probably an Illuminati, satanic cult, tunnels, something going on even there, even though it's such a high vibrating spiritual location that people flock to. That's where they want to be.
I was about to say, why wouldn't they be there? Because that's where the light is funneling. That's where people are gravitating towards. Where else would be the perfect place to put a siphoning device or anything? Would be somewhere where the light workers and those that are awakened go.
And if you really want to fuck with those light workers, you create these like fake ascended master beings that come to you in meditation and make you buy their candles and their calendars and their t-shirts. And so you've got so much discernment. It's like, how do I even know what's real anymore? Because they're using spiritual knowledge, guides, information against us, even in our meditations and things like that, if we're not careful. All you have
Yes.
to do is ask. Jesus came to me and I said, go away. Okay.
Get out of here, scram.
I was like, scram. Uh, because I was like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm here to save you. And I was like, no, you're not. I'm here to save me. It-
Right.
The the Jesus man, the one they've all been talking about, wouldn't he know that? Wouldn't he know to say that to me instead of I'm Jesus and I'm here to save you? If he had said I'm Yeshua and I'm here to help you, that would have been very different for me. And it knows that. The being itself knows that, not the artificially intelligent mind control program being emitted by the Vatican.
Ugh.
Okay. So you have many people who are running back to the church right now because Mother Mary came to them and it was a fucking hologram.
Yep.
Okay. So now people are going to listen. They're going to go, well, I don't know what to believe anymore. You need to quit believing, like, even your angels, your guides. What is this cacophony of trumpeted beings around you all the time? Aren't you solid in yourself? Aren't you connected to your higher self? Anything that those beings have to say has to come through your higher self. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So why aren't you just going to your higher self for the information and letting it funnel through? You're
Right.
skipping your higher self and just listening to even what's out there.
That's the programming that's shoved down our throats from day one, even in churches. It's, Jesus did all of these things, but we're just mere little humans who can't do anything. When I'm
That's
like,
right.
this doesn't make sense. And it's always the submission, right? The oppression that's programmed in so deeply.
Oh
So
God, yes.
for anyone to get to the point, I think even in conscious community of connecting just into higher self, it's like even the program running is that everyone has to have X amount of guides, everyone has to have, whatever. I'm like,
Totally.
people ask me, they're like, well, who are your guides and who are whatever? I'm like, well, I work with
That's right.
and acknowledge and talk to many beings, be it galactic, angelic, whatever. But it's always like higher self communicating, dropping in and feeling the discernment of like what feels resonant and true here.
Yeah.
That though takes a deep journey, as you know, of embodiment to trust that, even, right? Because we've been taught to not trust ourselves.
Right. Yeah, and I won't go off on a tangent on this, but let's save this for another episode. This
Yes. We've
this
given you enough rabbit holes for today.
well, it's important that we talk about that piece because isn't it okay that as we wake up, what if we find out that Archangel Michael and the ascended master who was coming to us, what if we realized that they weren't as real as we thought they were and that they were a projection of our own higher self or that they were a projection of the human collective consciousness, but they represented an aspect of who we are on a higher self level. And so we used that archetype to interface with our own self.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. See, some people would say, I don't like the sound of that. I need them to be an angel who knows God himself, so that when they come to me, I can feel like, okay, you're going to take care of all of this. That's exactly right. Instead of, I've got this, I'm going to take care of all of this.
Yep.
So there's a beauty to having angels and guides around you. There's also a lot of the angels and guides you're hearing people talking about are their higher self that they're fractalizing into different aspects because they don't see themselves as the goddess. So they need to make the goddess another archetype out here that they can embody because they're not the goddess yet. They don't see it that way
Exactly.
because they're preying on a certain level of spiritual seeker, someone
Mm-hmm.
who's not embodied yet. So if we teach you that you're just the goddess, you're not going to keep coming back to the workshop. And we do live in a world where we have to keep paying bills. So we like pushing this same message. Okay, it works for all, don't you see? So
Mm-hmm.
it's not about ascension in the spiritual community. It's about consumerism most of the time. And this was the same thing. This is an album, right? I even remember saying to myself, why would she do this over this album? This isn't going to be her last album, right? I mean, just all of this, and it wasn't marketed um, extremely well, I would say. These black cubes, it wasn't like everyone knew about this. It was a small group of Rihanna fans who knew about this, and the idea was we're going to take these black cubes all over the planet, and they have to go find them on some scavenger hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And when they find them, these doors will unlock certain clues to the Rihanna, to the anti album. Sorry, there's stuff in my way. And
Yep.
Um, I am just going to bring this up. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, is really go through this with you.
Mm-hmm.
And we can just talk about it as we go. Yeah. Okay. So as we watch this, I want everyone and yourself to be very clear that there was no explanation to this video or these videos. So over the course of like 8 weeks in late 2015, a video was released every week that was supposed to represent one of her albums and was supposed to lead you into the launch of this album, which happened in late January late January 2016. Okay. And oddly enough, 2016 in Freemasonry is considered to be the year of the beast or the return of the beast, which would be considered the Antichrist. Okay. And I am not a Christian, nor am I saying the Antichrist has come. That is not what's happening here. Okay. But Brittany, this album came out in 2016, right at the beginning, like right at the beginning of 2016, and it's called Anti.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, these videos are very cryptic. You're given no information about it. So, like art, you can take what's on the painting and have 1,000 different paintings based on 1,000 different people viewing it.
Yep.
However, I just want from my perspective for you to see it from my perspective. And there will also be something in this video that I never spotted before that has to do with cloning.
Mm-hmm.
And can you hear that audio? Okay. Her story will become yours. What does that mean? Just off the bat, this cannot have something to do with work, 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 kiss it better, uh, you know, these songs on this album. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
line up with the fact that this is just an R&B album, okay? So as we go through this, I want you to pay attention to color, the use of black and white, because we could make um, an artistic YouTube video just on the artistry behind it, right? The choices they made. But I want us to look at it from an Illuminati perspective. So everything's white, everything's pure. This represents Barbados, where she's from. Because you could look at this very surfacey. Oh, it's all just Rihanna becoming Rihanna and leaving the island and leaving her childhood to become this big star.
Even in like a little communion looking dress.
Yes, yes, very innocent. And for those of you who are listening and not watching, you'll have to check this out on YouTube or go watch the anti-diary videos to get a feel for what we're talking about, and you can skip ahead. And then this child version of her. It's like, come with me into this dark room. And now she's been given the key. This is the moment right here where Jay-Z signs her and tells her this is what you can become.
Transformation is coming.
The transformation is coming. The world will see who I am. I follow you into the darkness. The numbers are growing.
There is gold at the end of this journey.
There's gold at the end of this journey. Now these lovely people will show up several times as well.
The transformation is coming.
The transformation is coming.
There's strength in numbers.
There is strength in numbers. It's all New World Order, SATURNIC, satanic shit. The black and white. Pay very close attention to the black, white, and gold that you'll find in this whole video series. Now, what does any of this have to do with work, work, work? And nobody questioned it. Everyone was just like, okay. Rihanna's being artsy.
I was gonna say, they're all saying it's just art.
It's just art. Look at them reading so deeply into it. That's what she wanted. She got you all. Because now you're talking about it. There's so many layers to it.
What exciting benefits do you get as a
Oh,
Hertz Gold
Lord.
Plus?
First they censor us, and then they advertise at us constantly. Okay, so now she's coming in for her fitting. Now, in the world that we're in right now, you know, talking about Illuminati, dark forces, satanic agenda, reptilian control, you're going to hear a lot about something called black goo, or this black substance. And see, the point of this the whole time is to say, but my inner child led me into all of this. It was my destiny. And so it is. Now here's where it starts to get interesting. Now she's Rihanna. Now she's We Found Love. Now she's, you know, diamonds in the sky. And she's saying, okay, I've done the music thing. I've done the whore thing. I've been a hoe. I've done all the things I'm supposed to do in these videos and all over the world. Now it's time for me to move up in the ranks. There's a reason only a few of them are billionaires. And she's tattooing anti on his forehead backwards, so that when he sees it in the mirror, because everything with the Illuminati is about it being inverted. The pentagram is inverted. Inversion is a big thing for them. And she branded him just like she branded me. What does any of this have to do with any of that music?
All subliminal. Ugh, the energy of these videos is ugh.
Yes, you can feel it.
It's gross.
To me, the child represents being chosen,
Mm.
being crowned, but like being chosen. The chosen one. Yeah. Okay, so now we have this music box.
Yep.
And she couldn't have been more twisted and dark. And so to me, it's like, we're going to play all this music, but it's actually going to be the force behind what we're going to do next. And I don't know if you've ever seen a cloning tank in your dreams or in a meditation or, so it's like the music was just giving birth to something, was just laying the groundwork.
Look over here. I need you to see me, to hear me, to know me. We know you are the one.
We know you are the one. Is that what this is? Is that this cloning procedure? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, is it possible? Because they have to put it right in your face. It's almost like an act of pride or, like putting on a show for the Illuminati overlords and that sort of thing. Like, I've turned what you've done to me into art for the entire world to see, and I've embedded frequencies into it. Which sounds so bizarre, but that's the point. They don't operate like we do.
Army of inorganic beings.
Right there.
Mm.
This. There are many celebrity females who have this. And they are the ones that we're accusing them of cloning, like Lily Allen. I haven't heard from her in so long, but she's been in the news recently. And she has this. Oh, there she is right there.
Mm.
And this is supposed to say, we never tell. It's cute,
Interesting.
right? It's just a cute girly tattoo. Don't look so deeply into it. Why is she always putting it on display?
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the I won't tell. Look, if one eye is covered, something's happening here.
Yep.
Okay. So this represents, and they even put it on the child because it's her. But
Right.
also, she didn't have that tattoo as a child.
Right.
Okay. So I want you to pay attention to the branding or to the idea that even the children are being taught not to tell. Okay. Because they're being mind controlled. That's where I don't want us hating on this Rihanna person, whether the one we're looking at right now is a clone or whether both of them, because the Rihanna entity is so busy that both of them take up some of the slack. I don't know. I don't know how they do it. I'm not the master geneticist here. I do know that they can take your DNA and they can progress the maturation process and grow you into a fully developed, aged being in a matter of no time. So all of that is possible.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some kind of army that rose up, and it feels very hip hop R&B, like Beyonce, Jay-Z, Rihanna, people like that, Diddy. They're actually preying off of the black culture and African American culture and using that as a way to catapult the Illuminati by creating these powerful black figures that we all want to be, but we're just idolizing them and putting them on pedestals, following them. What is this blast? There's still parts of this that I'm uncovering. Yeah. Yeah, there was something very Big Brother about that, very 1984. Okay, now she has taken her rightful place. She is on top. Okay, now you notice this guy dies, counting all this gold and this money. And here's another person who looks exactly like him. Notice all the horned creatures. Everything is black, white, and gold. Well, we'll just replace him with a clone of himself. That's all. And I didn't even notice this part when Spirit told me that she was a clone.
Mm.
Right back to it. Yeah, like what are these? What if that?
What Ivy League University.
Shut the hell up. What if that was just like I'm not buying any of it? It's all mind control. What if the real Rihanna, and I'm just putting this out there because I will not ask my pendulum or spirit. I just can't handle the answer. But what if she's in some room somewhere, making videos, counting money? She's just a slave to the Rihanna program, the real one. And the clone is the one out there doing all the stuff that we see. I'm just saying, what if she's not on an island somewhere enjoying the rest of her life because I paid my dues? What if it's much more insidious than that? What if it's underground? What if we've got celebrities in bunkers, being cloned and then put away somewhere for other use? This is insane sounding. Okay? But again, a lot of the stuff that's about to come out and is coming out is going to prove that a lot of this is happening.
Yep.
Now notice the Egyptian iconography as well. The pyramid, Isis. She loves Isis. And these are all part of the Egyptian pantheon of gods, which is Saturnic or Satanic. So, did this person even have a choice? Was she asked and said yes? You know, like, was she mind controlled before she signed that contract with Jay-Z? Was she, there's so many layers to this. You could even say that Beyonce, Jay-Z, Diddy, they're being used as puppets. Now, this is the end. This is right before the album launches. And I want you to pay attention to what she looks at the very end. And that's all we need to know right there. So, this is a Saturnic album, but Saturn can't do anything that it's doing without the moon. So that's also why when you brought up Taylor Swift, the Saturn moon matrix is needed because the moon is actually the amplifier and the transducer of the Saturn frequency. Because we're sitting in Saturn's rings right now, but without the moon, we don't have the mind control programs necessary to make us all asleep constantly, putting us all into a sleep spell. And if you look at, Saturn is the lord of karma. Well, let's look up Karma by Taylor Swift and Ice Spice.
Look at that.
And there's the Saturn moon matrix right now. Don't choose Venus, the goddess. Don't choose the sun. Choose Saturn and the moon. And we'll just say, we don't know what you're talking about. Okay? So, but look how sweet. Look at that sweet white girl. We love a sweet white girl. She loves her fans. She would never do any of that. You all are so wrong. Look at her. Look how angelic. Right? Am I right?
Yeah.
So the reason I'm showing all of this is to illustrate the lengths that they will go to in their concerts and their music videos and their albums and all of the stuff that you think is their main objective. The music is not their main objective. Diddy got into music for power because it was doorways into different layers of power and money and control and that sort of thing. And the reptilians, the powers that be, the Illuminati, they use your negative ego and your ego structures against you. So all of this to say, it's really important that we be discerning because I asked Spirit, are there mind control frequencies in Rihanna's music? It said yes. So I don't want to participate in that anymore. So in mind control, MK Ultra mind control techniques, it's called harmonics. Kathy O'Brien talks about it. It's certain sound waves, certain combinations of frequencies and noises and sounds that are designed to put you in more suggestible states. And the more suggestible we are, the more controlled we are because they're implanting these ideas and programs into us using symbols, um, shapes, animals like beta sex kitten programming. Just go do your own research because I would say 100% of us in the modern world are currently being mind controlled in some way. Okay.
Yes.
Even if you look at it like um, Kamala versus Trump, there's a mind control mechanism just right there. You know, the good versus evil, my team versus your team. There's mind control happening there, but there's specific mind control happening um, in other worlds, like even on the internet, in pornography, which we're going to talk about in another episode. So I want to leave everyone with this. Not everything that we say is real and true. It's true and real for us, or it feels true and real for us. That's what we want you to know. And what do you do with this information? You start asking your body and your pendulum, is this music right for me? Is this movie right for me? Because maybe this movie has nothing, there's no mind control programs in it whatsoever, but it's actually going to disrupt your nervous system in some way
Right.
or bring you to a frequency state that you'll have to just get yourself out of. So always be asking your body and your pendulum and your spirit and checking in with your gut. But also, there are specific programs running all over the place, whether you're going to the grocery store, because there's music playing everywhere. There's, you know, restaurants that are emitting fake smells that smell like their food out into the streets, out into the world, so that you smell it, so that you come to their restaurant. I mean, there's so many ways you're being guided and herded. But then there are specific attacks on our mind consciousness, which has to do with 5G, which has to do with certain technology. Help me
Inorganic
out.
frequencies.
Inorganic frequencies. Um, I don't know if they're going to take this video down because I said that. So that I also feel like I'm walking on eggshells because even the powers that be that are pumping out all of this mind control have algorithms that are designed to hear what we're saying right now and write it all out. So I have to be very careful what I'm saying, or no one's going to hear any of it. So that's the world we live in right now.
We're the coming into the feel like there's so many moments where it just feels like we're in this war, right? And we're like putting on the suit to get into the castle to try to get everyone to wake up to understand, like, you're in the wrong space. Come with us, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely. And
these,
it feels like I'm going to get into the castle and I'm going to be 80 years old by the time I get inside the castle. So I've got to tell someone I wake up, not wake up, but who wakes up in there, you've got to continue the journey, young one. Like that's what it feels like. This is multiple generations in the future
yeah,
of dismantling all of this.
yeah,
This conversation is just one example of millions that will happen that will help people dismantle because we're not going to dismantle it if we keep giving our money to Hollywood unnecessarily. You can do whatever you want with your money, but you all keep buying animal products that weren't produced ethically with it. You all are buying clothing and goods that are, and you don't know where it's coming from or who made the garment and how much pain it's actually causing the native area and the children who are making the garment that you bought at Target. Like, we're all doing our best, but just start asking questions and start being very discerning about are the lyrics to this song a match to who I'm wanting to become and the frequency I'm wanting to create for myself? Is this movie representative of something that I enjoy or want to participate in? Because even when you think, "Oh, I'm strong, that won't bother me," 40 440 hertz, which is what a lot of our music has been tuned to, will
yes.
disrupt your nervous system and distort your brain frequency 100% of the time, no matter how strong, how smart, how intelligent you are, because you're a biological entity just like I am. So
Yes.
we have to be aware that there are frequencies and programs that are running that aren't blatant and obvious and leave you very touchable. No one is untouched by this.
Correct. And the interesting thing, again, always these little signs and coincidence, right? There's never coincidences. Today in my group call, we were talking about music and the frequency, and I said it's really interesting because now you can actually look up a lot of songs, more songs than not in 432,
Yeah.
and they've shifted, music into that, and you can feel the difference between 432 and 440.
Hmm.
That tiny little shift.
Yeah. Before we go, I'm going to play a song real quick that everyone should know about, um, because it actually can help clear your energy if it's even something that wants to show up right now. But yeah, some like for instance, Prince's music,
Mhm.
there's a lot of spiritual power in there.
This is kind of coming into orbit. It did earlier too, with TikTok getting, banned or taken down or whatever happened for the 12 hours that happened. The interesting thing is that many people went to Red Note, which is another app. And it's funny because I'm actually seeing what happened, I think, during pandemic times where it was like, oh, we're going to try to do this. And people just woke up even more, right? All of this
Right.
expansion happened. We
Yes.
had people leave one app, go to another, which was from the same country,
Right.
but people are connecting and realizing like what we've been told about this country is not all truth, right?
Absolutely.
And vice versa. And it's been really incredible, in my opinion, to watch what happens when we just let ourselves get curious and to lean into spaces that maybe we wouldn't normally lean into. And then we start to realize like there's so much programming that we just eat constantly.
Yeah.
And it's our jobs to take the responsibility of getting curious about things because it's what is it Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility. It's one of my favorite like funny movie quotes, but it's true. We have the power to become more conscious, and I think we have to band together in this time, right? We're working against some really dense and heavy forces.
Yeah.
It's our responsibility. It's why we came here, is to wake up more into possibility of what could be, because this year is going to be a big year. We're going to see a lot unveiled this year. And all of these quote conspiracies, like many of us, because of what, we're told we're conspiracy theorists, yet now it's not so conspiracy. And there's a lot
Yeah.
of truth around it. So it's like, give it 6 months or a year and we'll see what's still conspiracy next
And I
year.
believe that you can't dismantle something unless you've been in it in some
Exactly.
way. Like I had to be um, the kind of light worker code that I have is one that dismantles mind control programs because I've been involved with so many mind control, um, whether it's from the media, being obsessed with celebrity culture, porn addiction, to, um, you know, actual mind control done on me in a relationship when I was in a relationship with a Satanist. I understand mind control from many different perspectives. So a lot of you listening are like, oh my gosh, I'm still obsessed with, celebrity culture. I'm still this, I'm still that. It's okay. We have to wake up from a sleep. Okay.
Exactly.
You have to let that process happen. I'm still waking up after all of these years. I've been having awakenings since I was 11. I'm still going through them. There's different layers of it. Now you know, the Illuminati and satanic ritual abuse cults that are happening and or that have been going on for hundreds, thousands of years. That was not something I ever really wanted to go in until my awakening forced me into it. Okay. And we're going to have someone on the podcast. We're actually meeting with him tomorrow. His name is Alondra. And so that episode will come out soon as well. But he has firsthand experience with the Illuminati satanic ritual cults and cloning and mind control to the most insidious degree. And so
Hmm.
I welcome everyone to hear what we have to say about this, but then also to watch the episode that comes out after this with
Yeah.
Alondra Markman that will shed light on all of this from a totally different perspective so that you can feel the reality in it and the depth in it and the severity. Because above all else, we want you to be sovereign. We
Yes.
absolutely do. But if you really asked my inner child, we've got children and just humans too, children trapped in adult bodies, which are some of these perpetrators. We've got children who need help. And humanity is being heavily attacked and has been for a long time. And if we don't wake up to that, we're going to go down with the rest of you. So it is in our highest good to consider these things as possible,
Yes.
not because we want the world to be a bad place or we want you to look at the negative things or we want you to create more of that which you don't want. It is so that the sleep can end because it's the lack of consciousness that is allowing the breeding of the darkness to occur. So,
Exactly.
and there's nothing wrong with darkness necessarily. There's nothing wrong with anything that's happening right now. I personally do not prefer much of what's happening right now on the planet when it comes to society and human interaction and how we are as a community. I would prefer something else. And so this is my way of offering um, the people around me the opportunity to see life the way that I refused to see it for many years because I was never just given it, or it was never given to me in this way. So I'm going to close out the space. I'm just going to take a deep breath in. Everyone listening, you're invited to do that with me. Just take a deep breath in through the nose and let it go with a sigh. Feeling yourself come fully into your body, here into the here and now moment. We ask that our angels, guides, loved ones, star family, ascended masters, ancestors, all gathered around, um, clear our energy of any and all thought forms, emotions, entities, energies, frequencies of any kind, false matrix programs, implants. You know the drill. Anything that needs to be cleared, please clear that from our energy field and send it back to the source with love or down into the earth to be recycled into something new. Angels, we ask that our cords are cut. Cut the cords between Brittany and myself, between the listener and myself, that we call our energies back to ourself in wholeness, completeness, and unity. And I ask that we take this information and we come back into our hearts. How can we have compassion for the perpetrators? How can we have compassion for the uh, beings out there who can't create reality and are trying to use us to create the reality they want? Can we hold compassion? Can we hold a universal understanding of love and connection, even with them who don't believe they're connected to us or that they're superior to us? Let us also take this information forward and use it to our highest good to discern and to just be more curious, as Brittany said. That's all. Stay in your hearts. We love you very much, and we'll see you next time here on Ascend the Matrix podcast. I'm Chrys King. You can find me at chrisking.com, at Chrys King on social media. Brittany, where can we find you?
Of course, if you are going to the website, it is BrittanyRenee.com. You can also find me on Instagram, the Brittany Renee, and TikTok, that babe B. We love you so much, guys. Thank you for being with us and happy curious trails.
Happy Curious Trails and happy Ascension, everyone. We love you. Bye bye.
We love you.